Hey, what's up, and welcome to the Week 4 edition of the NFL Sports Podcast for this week of 2016 of the NFL season. How you doing? I'm your host, your humble host, the diligent, vigilant, meticulous, sagacious, conscientious, analytical, methodical individual. I am the Chiseled Adonis. Let's hop right into the scores of what just transpired. I'm not going to start bragging about my Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday Night Football. I'll get to that game much later on. But let's talk about these scores that just happened. First, Thursday Night Football, the Bengals versus the Dolphins. The Dolphins got completely obliterated. AJ Green lit them up. He had like 10 some catches. I don't know what it was for. I think he had like 2 touchdowns, maybe like 200 some yards. Ridiculous. Dude lit him up. The Dolphins had one play, that long 74-yard touchdown bomb to Kenny Stills. After that, they generated absolutely no offense. The Dolphins, you absolutely suck. The Bengals move on to 2-2. Jacksonville and Indianapolis played in London, overseas. They played overseas, only to see Blake Bortles nearly throw the game against the Colts because they were up by 2 scores, and the Colts happened to put up 2 scores in a span of 4 minutes. They almost pulled it away with the game, I might add as well. But Jacksonville finally got the W. Finally, this season started to look like a real offense, despite Blake Bortles starting to make terrible decisions down the stretch. If you look at his stat line, he actually played fairly well, I must say. As for Allen Hurns, finally got to the end zone this season. He only was able to get 1 or 2 catches all game. But as you can see, throughout the game, you saw Allen Robinson get targeted several times. And for some apparent reason, I think towards the end of the game, he actually got a little bit banged up. He was holding his arm. I'm not sure. He wasn't on the injury report, so I'm not too sure what was the deal over there. Maybe it was just a stinger, but he's good now. But Jacksonville, offensively, they started to look all right. Chris Ivory, I believe he was starting to get some traction this game, Maybe he could stay consistent going into week 5. The Jaguars picked up the W 30-27. Moving on, both teams end up going to 1-3. Moving on to Sunday at the 1 o'clock games, you had the Texans take on the Titans. Now, the Texans without J.J. Watt, personally, I didn't think they'd be able to really win games without J.J. Watt back there. Ultimately, the offense is what got to put up points. But J.J. Watt is the leader of that defense. Apparently, the defensive line was still able to get it done. Jadeveon Clowney's really healthy this year. I've yet to see him limp so far. And he was able to get a cut. I think he had about 1.5 sacks. The defensive line actually looked pretty good. And they were able to put 27 points up. The Titans, they fell short. They have absolutely no receivers. Pretty much their offense is all DeMarco Murray. And he's been playing outstanding this season. He's been getting to the end zone, I might add as well. But they took an L yet again. Tennessee drops to 1-3. The Texans move up to 3-1. They're still leading in their division. Going on to Washington versus Cleveland. Cleveland is the only winless team in the NFL. And would you be surprised that it actually is Cleveland being the last team there? It makes I can't act like I didn't see this coming. Cleveland finds a way to lose week after week. And now, granted, you're going against a Washington team that's trying to catch their footing, and they were able to get it done. After starting 0-2, they win 2 straight. And I must say, out of the 2 wins that they had, they actually looked pretty impressive. Kirk Cousins didn't drop the ball this game either. I don't think he threw an interception this game. I'm not too sure. I watched the highlights a couple days back. I was supposed to record this yesterday. I had everything in my head, but apparently I forgot. But Kirk Cousins, he played well from watching through the highlights and watching some of the game while flipping through channels and watching on Red Zone. But offensively, I will say this about the Browns. Terrell Pryor, he can actually be a legitimate receiver in this league. And also, Isaiah Crowell, wonderful on the ground. He has been very consistent this season, I might add. The Browns just need themselves a quarterback. Because Kessler back there, I have a feeling he's going to end up getting knocked out at 1.2. And then we're going to end up going to 25 starting quarterbacks for the Browns since 2002. Absolutely ridiculous. Ridiculous. Cleveland should have been a soft 2-2 right now. When I say soft, I mean like not something that will raise eyebrows, but they should have won 2 of their 4 games. And they dropped to 0-4. Honestly, I think this team can find a way to go 0-16. The difference between the Lions of 2008 that went 0-16 and this Cleveland Browns team, the Lions were actually losing every game. I'm talking about they show up, they get their ass kicked, and then they go home. Cleveland, on the other hand, shows up, plays fairly well, and then happens to lose the game. It's ridiculous. You need to leave the NFL. I don't know what you guys are doing. Somebody, whoever, they did it in 95 when they got rid of that Cleveland team. No, they came to Cleveland. I believe it was the Baltimore, ended up leaving Baltimore, the Colts, and then the Cleveland Browns moved from Cleveland to Baltimore, and then they created a new Cleveland Browns team. I think that's how it ended up going down with Art Modell and all that other people. But moving on. The Jets took on the Seahawks. If I'm a Jets fan, I'm very worried because you have the keys to succeed on this team, but they can't work together as a cohesive unit. Brandon Marshall is a grown man. Get the ball to him. But what did Fitzpatrick do? He got the ball to him a couple of times. He did. He only had like 4 receptions. Fairly not enough for somebody as caliber as Brandon Marshall. Plus, Eric Decker's not there. The ball should only be going to Brandon Marshall. I'm sorry. And sometimes you hand it off to Matt Forte, of course. But Fitzpatrick, once again, 9 interceptions. What? 3 interceptions he threw. Now he has 9 interceptions total on the year. It might be more. Or I should just go with the last 2 weeks combined. Let's not even talk about the first 2 games. You have 9 interceptions in the past 2 games. I'm sorry. If I'm the Jets GM, I'm getting Geno Smith ready. You've got to be kidding me. Seattle, on the other hand, tell you the truth, I don't trust this Jets team, so I can't say I'm really impressed by Seattle. I'm sorry. I'm not. Offensively, they started to look really good. They're really looking good. Jimmy Graham is finally starting to play the way he used to play in New Orleans. However, this Jets team is way too ticky-tacky to give Seattle the big nod. Defensively, I still don't trust Seattle. They're not the same team they were before. They are not the same team they were before. I'll let you know by week 8 if I truly believe Seattle's something legit this year. Moving on to the Patriots getting zipped by Buffalo. Oh, I was so happy they lost because you know Tom Brady's coming back next week. I cannot allow the Patriots to be 4-0 with an angry Tom Brady coming back. But the Bills were able to get it done. Tell you the truth, I'm very surprised that the Patriots didn't score a touchdown. They did have a pass down the sideline where I believe it was Bolden or what Bowden, whatever the dude's name is. He got dreads. He stretched out for the pass and he dropped it. It would have been a touchdown, and the Patriots would have probably scored. That would have been their points, and they would have probably got some momentum because, mind you, they're at home. They've never been shut out at Gillette until this past Sunday. And Rex Ryan was able to get it done. LaShawn McCoy, he's playing pretty good. He's finally looked like his Philly self now. You know, he's getting it done. He's staying consistent on the ground. He's not putting the ball on the floor either. However, the Buffalo Bills offense, after that touchdown, they never really did anything after that offensively. I'm sorry. I mean, they got into field goal area to kick those field goals. But aside from that, I really wouldn't be too confident if I'm the Buffalo Bills regarding offensively. Defensively, you looked marvelous. You do. You looked marvelous. I don't know if Rob Ryan's finally getting it together or the Patriots just struggled trying to contain and control Jacoby Brissett and try to get him not to do anything too crazy. But defensively, the Bills are starting to gain some traction. Going out to Atlanta, where was fucking explosion of offense this season. Number 1 offense in the league. They came out and they defended that ground. Julio Jones, 300 yards. He had 178 yards by halftime. Are you kidding me? Matt Ryan, 500 yards passing. Forget about it. And Cam, the MVP of last year, yeah, he got knocked out the game. Concussion. I'll talk about that later. But Atlanta's looking pretty scary. They're looking pretty scary. You know, the only thing about Atlanta that I have an issue with is because they're kind of like the Giants of the 2000s. The first half of the season, they look amazing. And then the second half, they completely crumble. Only in the Giants case, they used to have they had that tail end where it's like, oh, it's the final 2 games of the season. I got to win to get into the playoffs. Let me win these 2 games and get into the playoffs and go win a Super Bowl. That happened a couple of times. But to tell you the truth, Atlanta looks amazing. However, I have to know what they look like after week 8. The first half of the season means absolutely nothing to me, especially dealing with this Atlanta team. However, on Carolina's side, I would draw some sort of concern if I'm a Carolina fan. Because Cam is, although he's going to be able to play this weekend upcoming because he passed the concussion protocol, but I wouldn't really be too happy about what I saw with this Carolina team, I'd be kind of on the fence about that. You know, I'd be a bit worried because y'all not playing well. They're not playing well at all. They're not playing defensively, offensively, terrible this season. They are not the team they were last year. Moving on to the Denver, I'll get to that later. Oakland versus Baltimore. Baltimore lost their first game of the season. Thank you, Jeebus. They lost their first game of the season. The Raiders nearly blew it. They had this game in control the entire game, and then they ended up squandering 15 points to Baltimore in the fourth quarter. Yeah, they dropped it in the fourth quarter, but they were able to drive down the field when the game was on the line. Derek Carr was able to put the ball into the end zone and then win the game. Wonderful. The Raiders, they're still looking impressive. I told you guys before, the AFC West, Oakland might just come out as your division winner. Moving on to Chicago versus Detroit. Two bad teams playing against each other. Chicago finally got their first win of the season. Congrats to you. Jay Cutler might be coming back. / he might be traded to Miami. I heard some talks about Jay Cutler possibly being traded to Miami. Regarding this team, both of these teams, dealing with Detroit and Chicago, both these teams are not going to the playoffs. I honestly don't see either one of these teams winning 6 games. It's unfortunate. Both your teams suck. Y'all really need to rebuild and get back to those glory days that you had. The Lions, unfortunately, never had a glory day. As for Chicago, you could probably try to get your defense back to what it was in the 2000s. Moving on to Tampa Bay versus Denver. Tampa Bay just got creamed. I didn't expect that offense to play well at all against that Broncos defense, and they didn't. And as for the Broncos, you lost Trevor Siemian. Paxton Lynch had to come in and throw. I don't know anything about Paxton Lynch, to tell you the truth. I'm not too sure of his abilities to throw the ball and his accuracy, getting the ball to Demaryius Thomas and also Emmanuel Sanders. So I believe this upcoming game, there's going to be a whole lot of handing off to C.J. Anderson. But Denver was able to get the job done. They move on to 4-0. They are the only undefeated team left in the AFC. Moving on to Arizona versus, I was about to say St. Louis. Arizona versus Los Angeles. Ever since they left St. Louis, I can't seem to not say St. Louis. But again, the Cardinals got their asses whooped. You've got to be kidding me if you're Arizona. I can't sit down and be comfortable knowing this team is a shell of what they were last year. Like, you've got to be kidding me if you think this is what's going to cut it in the NFL. You've been losing games this way, and Carson Palmer got knocked out the game? You've got to be kidding me. The Los Angeles defense completely swarmed. They swarmed Carson Palmer and David Johnson. They weren't able to get anything done. They weren't able to get the ball to their receivers. They weren't able to bring the ball downfield. They got completely creamed. I must apologize for the cut. My computer shut down because the battery absolutely sucks. Can you believe I charged it for 3 hours and then I left it off? Well, I left it off the charger and I just opened it. It's been open for legitimately 22 minutes and it shut itself off. Computer's completely terrible. But moving on from Arizona, going to the Saints and the Chargers. Like I said last week, I believe this offensive game would have been high scoring, which it was. You had 35-34. The Saints finally get their first win of the season. The Chargers put up 34 points, and Phillip Rivers is still playing outstanding this season despite losing 2 key pieces of the offense. And mind you, Antonio Gates is not playing. And they were still able to put up 34 points. Travis Benjamin and Melvin Gordon cost them the game. 2 back-to-back fumbles in the like I was speaking to my friend while I was watching Dallas play against San Francisco. That's going to be the next game I talk about. And he was telling me about, San Francisco, not necessarily San Francisco. San Diego's looking wonderful this game. They were able to put up 34 points. They're beating the Saints. The Saints only have 21 at this point. It's 5 minutes left in the game. Game's over. Just run out the clock. You win the game. All of a sudden, he hangs up. After about 15 minutes, he calls me back and said, yo, they lost the game. I said, what? How'd they lose the game? They're up by 2 scores. Lo and behold, I look at the highlights and I see what transpired. San Diego, you cannot finish games like that. Back-to-back fumbles. I must say, the poise by New Orleans was wonderful. They're able to still come back and, put it in the end zone twice. Marvelous. Although you did have wonderful field position after the fumbles, but they were able to finish the game. San Diego, you threw the game. You're starting to look like the Browns. You can't lose games like that. You can't lose games like that. The other team ain't win. You lost. You gave them the game ball. You got to play better. You've got to play better. Moving on to, like I said before, moving on to Dallas, San Francisco. Dallas, they're looking wonderful. They really are. Tell you the truth, Dak Prescott shouldn't lose his spot when Tony Romo come back. Sorry. If he continues to play consistent like this, Dak Prescott shouldn't lose his spot. He shouldn't lose his spot. And Ezekiel Elliott, yeah, that's a grown man back there. He can run the rock. He's leading the NFL in rushing. And it's not one of those fluke, I break off 2 long runs this week, so that's going to put me as the leading rusher like it happened with Todd Gurley last year. Nah, Dak Prescott's earning it. He got 7 yards here, 7 yards there, 10 yards here, 20 yards here, 5 yards here. He's earning it as he goes. Looking legit. As for the San Francisco 49ers, you lost Navarro Bowman. Man worked so hard to come back, and he tore his Achilles. So as for San Francisco, both sides of the ball, I don't really see anything happening with this team. I don't see them winning 6 games either. Sorry, they're not really going to do anything this season. And Monday Night Football, because I always say the Pittsburgh Steelers for last. But Monday Night Football, the Giants played against the Vikings. I'm going to file a missing report. Have you seen Odell Beckham? Last I've seen him was last year, at the end of the year. I'm yet to see him this year. I've saw many commercials with Head and Shoulders where I saw somebody who resembled him going out and doing all these, like taking a shower, washing his hair, or giving a ball to a child, something like that. But I'm yet to see Odell Beckham on the field this season. More importantly, I'm yet to see him in the end zone. I'm not too sure what's going on with this Giants offense because apparently Eli Manning the last 2 seasons has been playing the best of his career. And this past season, after week 2, Eli's kind of looking like caca. He's looking a lot like doo-doo right now. He's not doing shit. Oh, might I add, the Giants have absolutely no running back. Absolutely no running back. Everybody's getting hurt in that backfield. You lost Shane Vereen. Rashad Jennings can't play because of a thumb. So you have Bobby Rainey back there taking carries. Bobby Rainey, the same person who fumbled every other carry in Tampa Bay. And then you're Eli Manning. You're a 2-time Super Bowl champion. You can't get the ball to your receivers. More importantly, the receivers can't run themselves open. Now, give me an opportunity to praise the Vikings defense. Now, their defense, through the first 4 weeks, apparently ESPN's already comparing them to the 85 Bears because they've allowed less points than the 85 Bears. They're only 4 takeaways less than the 85 Bears. They have more sacks than the 85 Bears by 1, I believe, or they might be under by 1. Whatever the case may be, they're very similar to the 85 Bears in these first 4 weeks. And they've shut down, now looking at the quarterbacks, they have shut down in week 2, Aaron Rodgers, Super Bowl champion. In week 3, Cam Newton, Super Bowl visitor. And week 4, Eli Manning, 2-time Super Bowl champion. These Vikings boys are legit. Legit. And people in the NFL, you had better watch out. Especially in the NFC. You had better watch out because the Vikings are coming. Now, Sunday Night Football, my personal favorite game. The motherfucking Pittsburgh Steelers showed out against the Kansas City Chiefs. They put up 43 points. 43 points. See, it was just like that cartoon, or let me not say cartoon. It was like this animation that was done years ago where somebody slaps you in the back of your head and you don't know who did it. So you immediately get up and you slap the nearest person. So the Eagles slapped the Pittsburgh Steelers on the top of their head. And what Pittsburgh did, they got up and slapped the shit out of the nearest person. Who was the nearest person? Oh, that's Andy Reid and the Kansas City Chiefs. Absolutely got their ass whooped. Jamal Charles came back. He didn't really have a welcoming comeback to the league. Now, did he? Nope. I think he only had 1 carry for 7 yards. He ain't do shit. The Kansas City Chiefs ain't do shit. They should have got shut out. 14 points was garbage points at the end of the game. Tell you the truth, I wouldn't even count those touchdowns. They got zipped. Le'Veon Bell returned. Who is calling my phone? Don't interrupt my damn podcast. Matter of fact, I ain't going to pick up the phone. Y'all going to deal with it. I'm going to deal with it. Moving on. 43 points they scored. Le'Veon Bell had about 170-some yards accumulated on the ground and through the air. Marvelous, marvelous performance. Antonio Brown only had 4 catches for 64 yards. However, he had 2 touchdowns in the first quarter. Julio Jones may have had the yards for week 4, but Antonio Brown had the touchdowns. Oh, it was marvelous. Big Ben, 22 for 25, 300 yards, and 5 touchdowns. 5. I think he's now tied for 5th for most 5-yard touchdown games in a career. Oh, he's moving on up in the record book. It was marvelous. I loved what I saw out of the Pittsburgh Steelers. They started looking elite. The defense played spectacular. Special teams played amazing. Offense was omnipotent. Omnipotent? I'll go with that. It was pulchrituitous. Let's go with that one, because I have a feeling I said the first one wrong. So, now I'll hop into my injury segment. Let's talk a little about who's injured. We got Cam Newton, concussion. However, he's going to be coming back. So, we don't really need to talk too much about him. Carson Palmer, he's ruled out. That's right. He's ruled out for Thursday Night Football. So, Arizona, I'm not too sure who they're going to be starting. I'm not too sure if it's going to be Drew Stanton or who the other quarterback will be. But Arizona, they're going to be without Carson Palmer. What does that mean? I don't see them winning. Trevor Siemian, he was carted to the locker room. Now, I'm not too sure if he's going to be starting this week. There's no word on it, but I have a feeling Paxton Lynch will end up starting, and Siemian will be on the bench. Siemian played pretty well in these first 4 weeks, and Paxton Lynch, he's going to be filling those seats. He's going to be filling the seat of Trevor Siemian, given that he is the first-round pick. So I expect to see him play well. Navarro Bowman out for the season. Gerald McCoy, he got hurt. The defensive tackle for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he got hurt. He has a calf injury. Now, he's the only individual on the defensive line for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, he has had a history of injuries, but it hasn't been no catastrophic to where you missed the season, but he's always been banged up, so this is nothing for him. Thomas Davis, he got hurt for Carolina. Mind you, if you lose Cam Newton and Thomas Davis in one game, you're not going to win the game. I'm sorry, you're not. Thomas Davis, I'm not too sure if he's going to be coming back. We'll find that out later on in the week, but that's a big injury for that core linebacker unit that Carolina has. And the last injury on the injury list of people who actually matter, because I don't count Kevin White because nobody cares about Chicago, and Alshon Jeffrey is the only receiver over there. Oh, along with Eddie Royal, who had a pretty good week this past week. But Ryan Kerrigan, linebacker for the Washington Redskins, he got hurt, but he walked off holding his left arm, so hopefully it's nothing too serious. He could just patch on a cast on that sumbitch and go play with that joint and start clubbing people, giving people the phenomenal forearm like AJ Styles, whatever the case may be. But those are the significant injuries for week 4 going into week 5. Let's talk about a little bit of predictions going into this week. Now, Thursday night football. We got Arizona going one-on-one with the San Francisco 49ers. Before I said I don't think Arizona is going to win without Carson Palmer, but this is San Francisco. San Francisco is not really a threat in any aspect of the game. However, I think this game is going to come down to a field goal. Carlos Hyde's going to have a hell of a game on the ground for San Francisco. If you're playing fantasy, you might want to pick him up. As for Larry Fitzgerald or John Brown, Jaron Brown, all of those receivers for Arizona, I don't know. Depending on if the quarterback can get the ball to him, I'm not too sure. We'll find that out on Thursday. But I see Arizona winning the game 23-20. Baltimore versus Washington. Oh, this is going to be a good game. And it's in Baltimore. I don't see Kirk Cousins winning on the road. Baltimore wins this game. I'm not too sure on the score. I have no clue on the score. See, I only do the scores for the primetime games. But Baltimore wins this game. New England versus Cleveland. Tom Brady's back. Come on now. New England. Detroit versus Philly. They may have had a bye week, which is the weirdest week in NFL. Why is it the first week of the season? There's supposed to be 4 teams that go on a bye at a time. This year, week 4, you only had Green Bay on a bye, and you had Philly on a bye. It was only 2 teams. That's different. I only had 2 teams on a bye. So you mean to tell me we still had 15 games of football? That I don't understand. That's weird. There's usually 4 teams on a bye every week. But Philly beating Detroit. I see Philly beating Detroit. They may be on the road in Detroit, but it's in a dome, so there's no real conditions that can affect them. So Detroit loses here. Philly moves on to 4-0. Indianapolis versus Chicago. Indy gets this win here because they worked extremely hard in London and they fell short. Chicago's defense is extremely injury prone. A lot of people are dropping like flies. Indianapolis gets this game. T.Y. Hilton has a breakout game, by the way. He's going to have himself a huge breakout game. After this game, we're moving on to, it is loading. Why is it loading? There it is. We have Miami taking on Tennessee. Tennessee gets this win here. DeMarco Murray runs all over that Miami defense because technically, their defensive line is only there for sacks. It seems like Mario Williams, Cameron Wake, and Ndamukong Suh can't seem to stop the run. But they're damn sure well against the pass. Turns out, Tennessee's going to be running all day. So I see Tennessee winning this game. Minnesota versus Houston. Minnesota gets this win. Why? Because Houston put up 0 points against the New England defense. And you're walking in to Minnesota, I might add, to play against this Minnesota Vikings defense. Minnesota's going to swarm them and destroy them. Might I add, Stephon Diggs is going to have himself a day as well. Pittsburgh and the New York Jets. Darrelle Revis has a bum hamstring, so I don't see him covering Antonio Brown. Outside of that, I don't see the Jets defense being able to contain Le'Veon Bell. The Pittsburgh win this game. The Pittsburgh Steelers win this game in a blowout. They put up 40 points again. The Jets only put up 17. Denver and Atlanta. Woo! Game of the week. Best defense in football playing against the best offense in football. Whoa, wait a minute. Second best defense in football. Minnesota's first. Second best defense in football going against the number one offense in football. Tell you the truth. In Denver, this is on the road. Matt Ryan's going to have to show his true colors. Atlanta wins here. They shock everybody. They win here. In Denver, they win 24-14. Denver wins only because I don't think Paxton Lynch is ready to perform at this point in his NFL career, being forced in by injury to actually come in and throw the ball. I don't think he's going to be able to get it done. C.J. Anderson's going to have a long day on the ground. He's going to put up numbers, but it's just not going to be enough to stop the high-powered Atlanta offense. And I'll tell you this much. The offense won't make that big of a difference, but it'll be the field position because of the interceptions. The 2 interceptions Paxton Lynch is going to throw. Cincinnati and Dallas. Dallas wins here. And I only say, I don't trust the Dallas defense, but I do not trust the Cincy defense at all. Ezekiel Elliott's going to have a hell of a day on the ground. I truly believe that's what's going to be the difference. Oh, and Cole Beasley, he's going to put up some numbers too because Des Bryant's still ruled out. So Dallas gets the win here. Buffalo versus Los Angeles. Los Angeles is playing outstanding. Los Angeles wins here. Oakland versus San Diego. Oakland wins this game, no question. Green Bay versus Giants in Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers doesn't lose at home. Aaron Rodgers gets the W here. No problem. The Green Bay Packers win this game. I don't see anybody on the Giants defense being able to cover Jordy Nelson. But Randall Cobb is going to be the main target tonight. Well, that night in particular. And he's going to have himself a day for probably the last 2 years because he played like shit since 2014. 2014 was the last year that we actually saw him. 2015, he was a main receiver and he didn't perform like a main receiver. And the Giants lose this game. Does Odell put up points? Tell you the truth, the Packer defense not that well. So we'll finally see Odell. Hopefully, because he said this week he's not having fun anymore. Well, he better have some damn fun if he wants to play in the NFL. And last game of the week, being on Monday Night Football, Tampa Bay versus Carolina, gives Cam much more time to come back. He will be back since he passed on concussion protocol. So Carolina gets back on track. They move to 2-3. They win this game against Tampa Bay, no problem. So my top 5 teams for this week in the NFL. Number 1, the Minnesota Vikings. Complete team. Offensively, they're nothing real special. However, their defense is just far too great for me to overlook them. Number 2, Denver. I only moved them down simply because Paxton Lynch is now the starting quarterback. However, the Vikings were just too good to deny. Number 3, Atlanta. Atlanta jumped into the top 5 big time after destroying the Carolina Panthers. Number 4, I have New England because Tom Brady's coming back. You went 3-1. You went 3-1. I can't discredit you. I can't throw you out because you lost the game. I'm going to drop you out of the top 5. No, I can't do that. And number 5, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Only reason why I put them over Philly is because Philly didn't play this game. Well, they didn't play this week. And Pittsburgh played absolutely outstanding. They started to look like the number 1 team they were coming out of week 2. And it seems like they had a brain fart in Philly, and they came back to form. Philly's my number 6. I will mention Philly for the Philly fans out there because they are 3-0. They are undefeated. So I will put them. Let's go with a 5. They're both tied for 5. Philly and Pittsburgh, they're both tied for 5. Y'all both on the damn state of Pennsylvania anyway, so deal with it. Now, we'll tune into the podcast. Well, tune into it next week. I'll try to do it on Tuesday, possibly on Wednesday, depending on what I'm doing on the Tuesday. I am doing videos for other things. But check me out on Facebook. Go to Chiseled Adonis on my Facebook. You'll be able to find me there too. Like the page. I'm getting a lot of likes this week, I might add. But I'm your host, your humble host, the diligent, vigilant, meticulous, sagacious, conscientious, analytical, methodical individual, the Chiseled Adonis. I'm signing out.